The story of Our Lady Immaculata penitens. In southern Nubia, a remote sanctuary of the Immaculate Heart housed a small hospice. Overseen by an order of holy sisters devoted to Saint Dionysia, these sisters offered support and alms to those in the region. Its remote location kept it safe even in the wake of the sacking of Kerada by the legions of Mamon in the 5th century. 3 days after the holy day of Saint Dionysia, the cold December night took on a foreboding red hue as fires raged and settlements in the region were put to the torch. Fleeing the sacking of their homes, refugees began to arrive at the sanctuary seeking respite and care for their injured. Each day brought fresh waves of refugees. The sisters, unable to turn anyone away, were hard-pressed to support the deluge of the distraught, the defeated, the dying and the desperate. The grim reality of the locust-like assault of Mamon's forces began to set in. The surrounding lands were stripped bare of all resources by the legions of Mamon. Food, water and medicine, and all manner of resources desperately needed by the sanctuary, became extremely scarce. The order instilled a brutal disciplinarian regime. Enforced discipline, devout prayer, and a desperate need for survival kept the tenuous and precarious situation in the sanctuary from reaching boiling point under the dire straits which it found itself in. This would not last long, however, and the increasingly desperate situation within the sanctuary's walls were merely the calm before the true storm that was about to come. The legions of Mamon were aware of the sanctuary and its defiant attitude, but they were also aware of its dangerously low levels of supplies. This amused the leaders of Mamon's forces, and as the sanctuary had little in the way of valuable supplies such as medicine, they were a low priority until the surrounding riches had been sacked in Mamon's name. When the inevitable siege came, the legions of Mamon were unhurried in their approach as they awaited for their mortal reinforcements, deciding that hunger would do much of their work for them, leaving any relics or other valuable items untouched by the destructive nature of siege warfare as the sanctuary's defenders withered and died from hunger and the lack of medical supplies. Mortar and cannon fire sowed discord and kept the defenders at high alert and under constant strain and pressure. Days turned into nights and the torment of hunger and the terror of siege took its toll. The situation became hopeless for the sisters and their refugees. Within the walls, Sister Loretta and other devoted followers of Saint Dionysia began to wither and perish one by one. Eventually, only Sister Loretta remained of her order by the 7th day, and with 9/10 of the sanctuary's inhabitants dead, their resistance almost spent, the assault began. In the distance, the defenders heard horns sound in the legion's camps, but this was not to signal the charge of the legions of Mamon. It was the distress call to muster as another army had joined the fray. At the rear guard of the legions of Mamon, a great army had come to lift the siege and scatter Mamon's forces as they smashed their way towards the sanctuary. Had the Holy Sisters' prayers finally been answered? Had a war pilgrimage of the Trench pilgrims been guided to aid them by the holy visions of its war prophets? Had the expeditionary forces of Abyssinia or the coalition of Nubia pushed back against Mamon's advance and launched a counter-offensive? At the moment, all remained unclear, but the horizon erupted into battle. The besiegers' rearguard broke and the demons and mortals alike were scattered by this force of saviours. The saviour army crushed every rally sent against it, and it soon became clear that the tide of battle was turning against Mamon's forces. They were being forced to pay a terrible price for their arrogance and hubris. The defenders surely must have rallied at this sight. What holy prayers, praise and cheers would have surely filled the air that day is lost to time, and none can say what joy and elation they must have felt for the briefest of moments before their hopes were dashed and once again crushed by overwhelming dread. As their salvation drew near, it became clear that this was not a holy force of God-guided saviours. This was a force of a far more despicable design. For this force, who breached this siege of Mamon's forces, was none other than an army of those dedicated to the Black Grail in service to the Order of the Fly and Mamon's most hated rival, Beelzebub. A titanic battle of the two leviathan forces ensued, and the forces of the damned and the dead roiled and wrestled like the winds of a storm front battering a coastline, and in the tumult, the sanctuary was dragged beneath the waves of war and sent to the depths of its destruction. The defenders of the sanctuary died to a man and woman. The sick and injured were butchered in their beds, and none alive escaped the destruction to tell the tale of which force emerged the victor. However, from the ruins rose a single sister, last of her holy order. Sister Loretta had survived the chaos, or so it would seem. It is unclear whether Sister Loretta survived the destruction due to divine apotheosis, or perhaps was bestowed the gifts of the Black Grail and emerged as a convert of the Order of the Fly and a servant of Beelzebub. One thing is clear though, Sister Loretta, the Lady of Penitens, emerged from the ruins and phoenix-like arose anew. What do you think happened to Sister Loretta, and are you excited to learn more about the lore, forces and factions that are coming to Trench Crusade shepherded by the creative mind of Andy Chambers? Let me know in the comments below. To discover more about the world of Trench Crusade, click the playlist linked to your left to discover the lore, the warbands, forces and factions of the Trench Pilgrims. Alternatively, to discover the thoughts and feelings of creative minds, game designers, other content creators and rules writers, click the playlist linked to your right to discover the Feel No Paint podcast. For discounts on your hobby supplies, click my affiliate links below, and please like, subscribe, share a favourite video with a friend or become a channel member. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon.